So I guess the first thing here, just because we want to be able to get the discussion going, one of the themes of this conference that really struck me yesterday in the sales metrics session, and then in Lexi and Lisa's implementing Salesforce session, was the theme of really coming up with your company's lexicon, kind of glossary of terms. I was reminded of especially in the metrics of, it took us 6 months, I think, when we put Salesforce in to actually finally settle on how we were using lead. But it was great. It was a great evolution. Metrics are constantly being defined. And I think site licenses were no different here. Let me make sure I can. So, a site license by any name. Does everybody in the room have a site license program or what they think resembles one? Looking to implement one? All right, so we're kind of, I think this is an area too where we're still kind of honing in on we found ourselves starting, well, what exactly is our site license program? And we've used a number of different kind of monikers for it. We're starting to see just the site license, which you kind of think on average is, maybe 5 to 10 seats across the company. But, when we looked at our list of site licenses, the values range from, we have a Grant Thornton account for $50,000. And then also on the list was a $300 account, which I was like, well, that's quite a range. But so, the Grant Thornton level kind of starts emerging as more of an enterprise. And then within that, you can actually have some subgroups. Maybe you have groups of people who aren't necessarily power users using all the products, but you have sort of a lighter user group. Would you kind of see more of that emerging, right? Especially as we start scraping for other names within the firm to add to the account. David, I thought, described it well yesterday in the new marketing awareness, the keynote panel, where filling out the organizational chart. And I think part of filling out the organizational chart for either your active accounts or prospect accounts is looking at it in ways, different user levels. So you might have the power users who are going to represent the majority of the 50,000, but then subgroups that are maybe using only a couple of the products. Is that inaccurate? Do you want to maybe, and I wanted Lexi to really talk about the sales team's approach to growing these. Lexi's sales team accounts for about 35% of our corporate revenue. And again, having been forced to get some data on this, the site license growth probably is at least 20% of that. Is that a good estimate? Okay.
Absolutely. One of the marching orders when I joined BVR about almost 3 years ago, was to find something what we call add-on products, grow within our existing core. I'm sure all of you know that terminology. Do you all use that?
And grow the core?
No, add-on products. Okay, so that was very, very important, and that was where we thought we would find actually our revenue growth, and through that, exactly what Lucretia said is building out the org chart. Yes.
Can you just describe what you think of as your add-on product?
Pretty much, an add-on product is a product that that they have never had before. That's different than something called a reactivation. I thought, speaking of getting your lexicon together, we have an add-on, we have a new, and then we have a reactivation, and these are all considered new, and they're also commissioned as new versus a renewal. But a reactivation is someone who has not had that product, a subscription product, and these are all actually, when we talk about this, I'm meaning subscription products. I'm not talking one-off reports, things like that. What we found, though, back to the org chart, is that your customers are always going to be wily. We're just as wily the same way. Oh, I didn't realize I needed 4 Microsoft licenses for my office or anything like that. So you need to remind them that if you've got 4 people using the license, you need to also 4 people using the product. You also need 4 licenses, and I don't think anything wily. I'm sort of being a joke. I think it's actually education, and so within that, it was very much that we started to actually educate our clients. again, through using a LinkedIn, for example. So that's really how we started growing our site licenses. And another key point I want to say with my salespeople is that these are their accounts, no one touches them. So if it is, we're based geographically, our territories, but some of them, like a Grant Thornton or a Price Waterhouse, these are national, multinational accounts, and they all stay under the one salesperson, so they're not getting touched by multiple people. Everyone knows that this is Joe's account, and he takes care of them.
And I think one of the keys in these larger accounts, too, again, as you sort of evolve your mindset into approaching site licenses, I mean, I would say it's taken a good couple of years to really make site licenses a way of life in our sales department. I mean, they're constantly, once they're in that zone of, okay, this is a license, there's a whole line of questioning that goes with that. I think a whole lexicon that goes with that.
There's whole different tier pricing that
Yes.
goes with that too.
Yeah. There are different usage levels again, so it's all about learning about the organization.
Exactly. And what we, especially with our larger accounts, where we, some of our larger site licenses, actually, the genesis was from a training. So they wanted to have multiple seats of training, and our captive audience, our customers, do a lot of CPE. It's necessary, so getting the training there. So that's how we really started building out the multi 20, 30 seat licenses. And a lot of our clients, after a while, and this was a challenge for us, wanted to know about usage data. So if I'm going to buy 30 licenses, I want to know, if
Yep.
Susie Q is attending it and if it's worth it. So that was also very important for us to check, how many participants are there, and try to be as transparent to our customers as we could.
As useful.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole other mindset that evolves along with the site licenses. It's a whole new level of relationship with the customer. So like Lexia, we 70% of our products are online databases. So they expect their pricing for the license, especially at $50,000 a year, to be based somewhat on their usage levels. So they, and we have the benefit too of larger firms having different practice areas. So you'll have a peer evaluation department or division, and then a litigation support division. And so it's the natural state of mind for the customer is, well, one seat, one type of account isn't going to fit all. And it does, I think, challenge. It takes your analytics to the next level, because you start looking at, well, how are they using it? And of course, you want to package it one way for the customer, and you're also in the background using the data for your own. If you see one product being much more heavily used than another, and it really forced us to get a lot of our system stuff together, because we don't have sophisticated usage monitoring. We have, do we do the IP usage quarterly, where we literally run search statistics based on IP address and account. So we sort of created, I think another sort of benchmark for you to create is, what is an average use, right? So then how do you price up from there, right? Is that?
Always price up.
Yeah.
Because you can always go down, but you got to start at the top, for sure.
Those are kind of the mechanics of it. Any comments, questions there, just on sort of the structure of licenses overall? Yeah.
Other than pricing it by the seat, do you have other methods, like the size of the firm gets a license at this rate, or do you actually?
Yeah, as Lucretia said, we have site licenses that range from 2 seats that are also then, unlimited usage. It really depends on what the client is needing. I personally, when I talk with my sales folks, we created a tiered system where we work with accountants. They always want discounts, so you can get a discount the more the bulk, the higher you go. So a 3 to 5 seat is going to be a little bit discounted, but a 10 plus seat will get another. We'll bump it up another 10%.
We were getting into discussions that we'd say, well, okay, let's say accountants, how many accountants do you have in your firm? And they'd say 10, but only half of them will probably use it. So we only want 5 seats. How does that work?
In that case, I would say, why don't we try it out with 10, and we can reevaluate it in 3 months based on the usage that we're seeing within your firm. Most people actually will probably stay at that higher level because everyone will have been using it.
The Lexi's also, we as a rule, don't do trial periods of our databases because you can go in, download the whole thing, or, get it because you have an engagement and you need the database, when you need it. But I think another tool the sales team has begun using is a formal site license, a trial period for the site license, and we put together a formal agreement, right, that it will only be, in some cases, especially if we see it as a very rich potential, we'll have them provide the IP addresses from which it's like, we're not going to do anything with that data, but wow, does it make us look like we have our act together? Would you say? Don't tell anyone that. But does that answer? I think you raise a really good point, because one of the rules of our, can we put together kind of a rules at the end, but site licenses they're all about being as open-minded as possible. So if you hear your customer giving you hints as to how they want their site license to work, go with it. Guaranteed there is a way to put together an account that is going to work, it's going to get them zipped up. And also, I think this on the one of the keys here, this touches on, site license are also, it's all about relationships. These are kind of, friends of our AEs. They're calling when we launch new products, or there's a new feature added to a database, or transactions added. These site licenses, these VIPs, are the ones the sales team are telling first. Jenny, yeah.
You mentioned that you do have a tiered system where you do discount based on the number of site licenses that you're issuing. Do you have a firm policy as to how low you go pricing-wise, and how does that work?
We do have a policy that, we have a certain amount of seats. As I said, the tier is 5 to 10. Actually, it's up to 8, and then 8 to 15. No AE can discount over 10% without getting the okay from me, and they always get, they often get the okay to discount a little more. But I mean, that's always been a firm rule in my book.
It's tempting to add additional, right, because it's a marginal, it doesn't cost you anything for the extra seat at that point, but stick to the value of what you're giving them. Because it is tempting. Well, you've got 5 users, let's just make it 7. No, because those additional 2 accounts is really important revenue to you.
And you want the ability to grow.
Yeah.
Another thing,
Wait,
actually.
Lexi, hold on, there was a question in the back I wanted to.
It was a follow-up.
Okay.
Question about single users or user-based pricing versus site license. Do you only do IP authentication, or do you have user access, single user access too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, quite a bit, actually. I would say for BVR, it's a great question, because, I think in our site license, sales-centric, metrics-based culture, again, I'm trying to remember the new vocabulary of these things, you tend to sometimes focus, maybe sometimes too much, on the licenses, right? Because when it's great, you're building these relationships and making friends and making sure they're happy, but in that there's an opportunity cost too. We have a lot of solo valuation practitioners who are, their $800 account is really important to me, and we want to make sure that he or she is getting the add-on opportunities, because you never know. That firm, one of the prospecting tools that we use too is we have a lot of Google alerts and news alerts set up based on our keywords in the industry, and we get a lot of news about whether someone's promoted, someone comes on to a firm, and we're seeing the accounting space is pretty acquisitive right now, so we're seeing a lot of smaller firms being acquired by larger firms. So that guy, he's going to turn into an additional seat, and at a larger firm, the theory would be that they need more products. It's a higher level of practice. So those are those very well your future seats. It's a great point. What were you going to say?
What we also started doing, especially sort of for the larger guys, the 5, 8 plus, is We created something called a portal, as Lucretia alluded to. Most of our products are database, so they actually access them by going through our website. And in there, we just made a small little, custom portal where it says, Grant Thornton right here. Here's your training. You're going to go, this is what's going on your calendar. And, to an extent, the big great nirvana is becoming somewhat of an intranet. Again, we're all
Yep.
here information providers. Ideally that they get to have access immediately to the library right there. They have access to the training calendar. That this has becomes part of their daily workflow is checking out what's going on, in the blogs that are on the site license, on the portal.
And that's a really important point.
It's customization. It's
Yeah.
very much a sort of customizing.
And getting into the workflow, I think that's another a great part of the mindset, the site license philosophy. First of all, what is switching cost, right? I mean, you're basically creating. It's not hard to do. You're creating a landing page, basically, and then behind the scenes, they're logging in like anyone else would. But the power of and also the point here too of making a friend or a champion within the firm, especially if it's a larger firm and you have the luxury of working with a marketing director. Your AE might be working with we work with a lot of training managers who are overseeing and coordinating training programs for the entire firm. And BVR helps them look really good when they're sending out, we're in their workflow, so they're sort of resending the ancillary, the reading materials that go with the webinar. Or we add a webinar and the training manager is able to send that out internally. So it creates, you become part of their intranet. And there's, a place where you can log in, you start working on evaluation engagement, you know where to go via your firm resource, and then you're, off to our stuff there. I think it's definitely been a really exciting, I think, level of sophistication in these, and fairly easy. Again, we make this work with not so fancy technology. So again, think if you think it's possible, if your customer is telling you they want it, guaranteed there's a logical and simple way to make it happen.
I'd like to know, who from the group here, you all have site licenses. What are you doing that differently?
We found that our customers will pay a premium to bring a live instructor on site, which is amazing. If you think that people wouldn't necessarily want to pay for that, it's easier to do online training. They love having that live instructor.
That's yeah.
It's cheaper for them, although they will pay a lot of money just to bring a person there. And that's the only cost to us, is sending that person there to do the training live.
Well,
But it's cheaper for them, and we've seen this actually a lot with the Big Four, that they've cut down sending people to conferences.
Yes.
And so it's
Yes.
cheaper for them to fly in someone, at $5K for the day than sending out 10 people, paying the airplane, the da-da-da-da-da. So absolutely, you can certainly get a premium on that.
And I think that touches on another important sort of characteristic of the site license mindset is it's never about just, again, thinking in the highest possible most grandiose terms. It's not about just that, sending that one person. Then you have a whole topical assortment of products that you can offer along with that. So maybe you webcast the training and people have access to it online, and you have books and special reports and past webinars. We put our past webinars in what we call a desktop learning center that it's another login product instead of calling them archives or whatnot. It's become an extremely important selling point as part of our subscription training product, which is our fastest growing product right now. Of all you get, for one price, you get all webinars that we put on in a year. And so it becomes all about, you want training on, for us, valuation and divorce cases. Well, boy, do I have a suite of stuff that can come along with that. And then you start to sort of think about what has been fascinating to see with Lexi's team especially is you start having, introducing concepts like, platinum or premium or a pro level, and not unlike Microsoft or whatever. It's very logical. Well, with that training, if you get the premium, right, then you can get the archives, the stream, this other material. We can customize it for you. Again, you can really raise the roof when you start talking about coming up with a solution for a firm, I think.
What are some other ways you guys out there?
We sell to colleges and universities, and most of them have the LMS, the learning management system.
Yep.
And so now we're able to tap in and deliver it through, say, Blackboard or one of those. And now that's similar to what you're saying. It's becomes part of their institutional communication.
That's excellent. If you have an opportunity like that to, get into the workflow, really explore those distribution. That's not really a channel, but a mechanism, right? That's a whole other level of licensing.
And in your case, it's probably unlimited users, right?
It's unlimited.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's university-wide, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't sell by the seat.
Yeah.
We do for a course. If it's a course where they get a certification at the end, those are individual logins. But the site licenses, it's by the institutional size.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you're maximizing the value of those?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. We're falling short. And one of the problems is if they subscribe this year, and well, first of all, we have to encourage usage. That would be another question I would have: is how do you?
Yes.
Because sometimes somebody might buy this product for their institution, and then if they don't get the word out and champion it,
Yep.
it may not get usage. And come renewal time, if nobody knows about it, nobody's using it.
It's easy to drop, right? Yeah.
One of our, bring up an excellent point. One of our first sort of larger training licenses started off as a trial and a 3-month trial and all that. And one thing we added again, because we're such excellent marketers, we told our champion that we will write the marketing copy for you. We will help send that out to your team of X people. Really, help, make it as professional, again, making him or her look incredibly good in that, in that measure too. So, as much as you can help them.
Yep. And I don't think, I can't imagine even having a site license program, never mind growing it, without a sales team. I mean, you just, if you're going to maximize, and when we're all getting started, I think I sold some, 5 years ago, surely way underpriced. They don't let me get close to the sales part. They shut me down when it comes to that. But I know. We don't want to ship those books back. Just give them away at the conference. Because again, the rule here is it's about establishing regular interaction with either the account rep or the actual users. Because again, the ongoing excuses to check in is really no joke. You want to have that conversation with them, and it becomes, site licenses, I think, also have helped us really fine-tune our own workflows, where as part of our onboarding process, there was a lot of discussion about this yesterday in the sort of lead generation areas of a couple presentations, where your onboarding program is you have to invest energy in putting that together. So for a site license, to your point that you made, part of the onboarding, you show them love when they buy it. You make sure they're using it a week later. And because you never know, it might be like they don't know where to log in. We've gotten all sorts of, and then out of sight, out of mind, right? They forget about it. So finding those reasons to continually remind them of the value that you're delivering.
And Lucretia, you brought up a good point that they'll forget about it, especially if they're not the buyer.
Yeah.
If it's a larger group, that you need to check in with the mere mortals who haven't necessarily signed that piece of paper.
Yep.
And the check over
Yep.
you. Every
Jenny.
single one you've got to check.
Yep.
I just want to speak to that engagement.
Yes.
Component. Every month we send a monthly easy, just
Mm.
reminding them of what they're missing out on. Oh, we password. How do I view this video? And then, that starts the conversation. So we know that's very successful for us.
That's a great point.
If we did the same thing at my last job, was a daily defense daily, and the salesperson kind of had a bad habit of just reaching out at 3 months before it's working. But we set up a notification, so every time an issue had been loaded onto the site, it went out to the site like people. So there was a constant reminder.
That's an excellent point. And I mean, as you all are talking, I'm thinking about, kind of along the lines of getting on the intranets, getting in their workflow, the possibilities of what we send, as updates or new products come out. I mean, imagine a, co-branded, basically letting Grant Thornton private label something that we're giving them. And they're related, case law that, court case decisions that are made, and many of our products are often used and often mentioned in these too, right? So you're giving them content, you're giving them context. There's a lot that you could kind of deliver for them without actually hitting the send button. And I think we talked about renewing, and I think that because with that level of engagement, it's never a renewal. It's your I mean, certainly don't send renewal notices out to these.
I'm going to say it's really important with your site licenses too, is don't take them off your renewal series. Take them off.
Yeah.
They should not be getting, things in the mail saying it's time to renew. Those are, every single one are personal phone calls.
Yep. Because they're not looking, especially, I think, again, back to the vocabulary and the new glossary of terms, subscription is not as prevalent a concept as it used to be, right? Because it's more a service, a solution. So especially for site license holders, they don't think of you as subscriptions. They think of you, I mean, if you're lucky, they probably think of you as like a, software as a service provider. BLR's done a phenomenal job of actually positioning yourselves like that, right? So you're more of a solution. They're not going to call it a subscription, I doubt. Yeah, you're so humble. So I think that is important. That it's always about expanding the site license, whether by adding products or by adding people. Any other thoughts? Philosophies of life.
Do you have a sort of most common path of like this is the starter product for the
Yes.
site license people, and these are the like 3 or 4 next options usually?
It's a great question.
Yeah, we one of our flagship product is pretty much used throughout. It's something called Pratt Stats, and it's a database that you definitely need if you're doing evaluation. That's
It's a database of comparables of companies bought and sold private. We're like Bloomberg, but for small privately held businesses.
the Main Street, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker.
I've never heard that. That's awesome.
You haven't?
No.
I always say that.
Yeah. Oh my God. See,
She doesn't hang out in the
See,
sales
that's what I
team
said. I'm
with us.
learning so much. Like I actually feel like I know what's going on. This is really.
What we've been really successful at in the last 2 years is really selling the training, adding that on as a premium. If that's really has always been, it seems to be the first step to the larger site license, because not everyone necessarily needs a license to X database, but everyone on his team needs to at least have 4 or 5 webinars.
It's a good point. I think there's something about our training passport too that is a different approach than a database, because the training, it's like they can come up with a list of people in their minds who need that, whereas the database, well, that person might use it. He does a lot of work in June, right? But training is an ongoing need, so it sort of helps them. I think from both the customer and our AEs, it helps them define the user group. And we've found, I mean, it's $1,000 single seat product. Is that right?
$16.99 premium.
Right. And then the single seat without some of the premium benefits is $1,000, and that's become our leading. That's become our starter product. So,
And that's easier to discount.
yeah.
I mean, again, everyone wants a discount. Everyone wants to feel like they've won out in the end, and that is certainly an easier product discount than, for example, my databases. I'd much rather you discount or throw in, extra access for the Desktop Learning Center, which is essentially our archives. But again, that is adding a premium to their
Yep.
seats.
Does that, good. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, we would love to. No time like the present. Yeah, that's it. Lexi can.
What are you asking about with commissions? Commissions are based, we have two sets, our commission, my favorite subject, sales commissions. We have, I'm not being facetious, I love it. So renewals get 4%, new products get 15%.
Gross, top line. We
Top
don't
line.
do these convoluted, fancy schmancy profit margin calculations because nobody
only-
understands them.
Right, and they only get paid commissions once it's been paid, too. And we pay commissions out on a monthly basis.
Yes,
15.
1-5.
Yeah, I know, everyone keeps hearing 50, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Man, I'll go.
Jeez,
I'll take that job.
take a tip out of my playbook there. Right?
If it's an add-on, it's a 15%.
Yep.
Because, back to my original marching orders, was to prove that we have not tapped our core market.
This is going deep in. This is kind of the last mile of revenue in our core market for us. So we are going as deep as we can to get as much out of it as possible.
So the add-in commission is what, 15?
15. Yep. Anything new, any new dollars. And I strongly encourage, I think our sales team and that area is thriving for a number of very exciting and extremely satisfying reasons. One, I truly believe, is the simplicity, the clarity, and the true incentive-based nature of our compensation plan. I mean, just for full disclosure, we've got 4 AEs, probably average base salary of $35,000. They're all going to make $100,000 this year, which is really good. So that breakdown, so it doesn't really, dollars, whatever, but we're talking, 35, 65. So I think that ratio has worked really well for us. Jim, yeah.
Is the commission over a base, or is that
Yes. You have a base, and then you have the commission. But it's, I feel like I'm having flashbacks to Wednesday. What's really important, and Bobby Edgell, who's also at BLR, and he's got a huge sales team compared to mine. I mean, we're talking, they got 35 plus people there. And what we both fully always agree on is that a smaller base and a larger commission is it's much more motivating for the salespeople.
Just a little more clarification on that. Then do you have a guide, your total sales compensation against revenue, what percentage you shoot for?
That's an excellent question, and I think there's a lot of talk on. I love what Jenny had to say yesterday in the keynote panel about the analytics. Next year being all about analytics with BVR, we can definitely relate to that as well. And one of our goals is to really, as close to setting in stone as we can, come up with really performance benchmarks like that. So I know, for me, the fact that Lexi's sales team is bringing in 35% of my corporate sales, that if that were to fluctuate at all, that's what I actually pay attention to. Is what are the dollars that they're bringing in as a percentage of the whole? Is the way I rather look at it. Does that make sense? Matt, do you guys use any benchmarks in that? Of compensation to revenue. Yeah. I mean, maybe roughly, I would say in our kind of, types of companies that we are, probably a 30% range. I don't know if I was gonna, total.
I'm sure Bobby can give you
Yeah. I don't think of it that way. No.
Well, you know what you do is you set a quota.
Yeah.
And if you meet your quota, and this quota should completely be aligned with the quota that, the CEO and the president are making out with the expected revenue numbers. So let's say you need to sell 25K every month of new sales. That should keep you on target to be making, the 35, 65 sort of percentage of commission versus base salary.
Yeah.
And keep you whole. And, if you sell more, you'll obviously earn more.
And I think that number is useful. I remember,
Okay.
I'm aging myself. In the heyday of direct mail, used to track the total cost of that activity
Yep.
against the revenue.
Yep.
And over time, if you could say that you were spending 40%
Yes.
of the revenue that was being produced, you were in the ballpark.
Yep. No, it's a great point, and I think it speaks to sort of the changing nature of how we're looking at, we're measuring our lead gen programs and conversion rates. I mean, it's a whole new analytics ballgame, I think. Matt, were you going to?
I was going to say, so for us, Bobby does think of revenue per rep and things like that, and where we get into trouble, or where he and I come at it from size, is in the budgeting process. We're looking to show revenue growth in the next coming year, and Bobby says, okay, well, I'm going to add 6 more reps, and so that's and
Right.
per rep, we can increase our revenue targets by Y dollars.
So easy.
And I'm on the marketing side thinking, where we don't have any more leads for those people.
Right.
So
Yep.
unless they're going to be purely self-sufficient hunters, which we've talked about that kind of a program, we can't just embed revenue by adding people.
Yeah, because at that point, right, you're going to be making territories smaller or something in order to be feeding them.
Which is ironic because Bobby's salespeople are usually the ones saying, don't give higher,
Right.
what the numbers for the budget process.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
I think
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
one point I'd like to, we're getting unfortunately close to the end, but one point I really want to drive home with you guys is that these site licenses don't happen overnight. Two of my reps have been there for probably 8, 9 years now, I think. Joe's
Yeah.
on his 9th.
Yeah.
And these are long-term engagements. I'm thinking of this one, Dixon Hughes Goodman, and they, it's taken a long time for them to get on the training passport. And now Regina closed them, and it was, a 20+ K renewal this year from, 7,000
Yep.
K. And that was just, long conversations, checking in once a quarter, sending them free reports saying, don't you want to share this with your team, et cetera. So, I mean, it's a lot like long-term dating.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit too, how many, when you're selling these, how many times are you selling them? Is it really an upsell, or is it a fresh person in the door who you're trying to sell the whole site license and bundles to?
No.
What's the mix?
It's always you start off with small.
Yep.
I certainly wouldn't go into a new client and start throwing them the site license because they don't necessarily know. They don't know the value and the benefit of it yet. They need to first start, drinking the Kool-Aid first.
And I think it speaks to probably why, Matt, you and I are in marketing, and Bobby and Lexi are in sales, is it really is an art to listen, to hear what your customers are telling you that they need, and starting off, slowly. Well, you have to have Pratt stats. Let's start with that. And then as you talk to them, you learn what kind of valuation they do, and if they do a lot of estate and gift, that's a trigger for another couple products to add on. And I think that it does raise a good point because, internal training, with the importance of site license revenue for us, we've also increased that we saw the real need for ongoing education and training internally, so that we know our AEs when someone says, this is I say, you say, is what we've named the training, where I say estate and gift, you say, these 3 databases, these publications, this webinar workshop. So I think that with the evolution towards the site license centric organization also comes a demand for higher level and more sophisticated internal training. And Lexi really pushed that issue with me. I sort of took it for granted. Everybody knows what a discount for lack of marketability is. Well, yeah, they do, but once you start drilling down, the deeper you go into your products, a whole lot more sales opportunity opens up.
Funny we're gonna.
It's a good
I was
question.
just thinking one thing about that. Jody, they rarely ask for it. Rarely, unless they're on an initial trial period, and we say we're going to do 3 months, and we're going to say how many people have, used it. One thing to the usage report, we do get a quarterly usage report, and back to sort of the wily customers. Who aren't doing it on purpose, sharing their login with their neighbor down in Georgia. I mean, it's pretty easy to say when you're in Chicago and I'm suddenly seeing an IP address at the same time in Georgia on the same login that you're probably sharing it. And one of our sales people, we sort of call her the site license sheriff.
Yeah.
And she's made an art out of this. It's quite amazing. And that's also been growing. Our site licenses growing the seats is by finding that people have started sharing licenses. But one big thing that we have learned is that we don't really want our AEs to be the sheriff. We want to bring in the big gun here. And so if they haven't started, by the second or third time where we're saying, whoa, it doesn't seem like you really are just using this with one person here. And they're like, oh, no, I was visiting Georgia, or whatever excuse they come up with. By the second or third time, you got to take it away, and you get Lucretia on the phone. And that scares the
We rarely
bejesus
have to
out of 'em.
escalate it to that level.
No, we rarely do, but sometimes
right, but
we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when they're really like, come on, I've been really nice here trying to, it's a gimme as far as, yes, I need 3 more seats. And I think that's an important point too. Not only do you not want your AEs being sheriffs, you always give your customers a benefit of the doubt. Internally, we call this usage report that Lexi is referring to our violators report. But I would never use that externally, and I have given the sales team very clear instructions of, oh me, oh my, it looks like your credentials have been compromised or something. Where, again, and then they look awesome and nice, like, oh, okay, phew, they're not going after retribution. We're not going to get our big mean corporate counsel on you. So it actually look at it as an opportunity to again customize the solution that they need, and that's when you start referring back to the data, which is sort of the use your data when appropriate. It's going to behave very differently firm to firm, but that's when if you can get some idea of sort of what your average activity base is, and however you define that is going to probably, all of us will come up with a different definition. But if you have, like, we know when we see someone searching, downloading 2,000 times from our transaction database, that they probably have 10 people accessing it. So if it's a single, so you can use, at least with some degree of confidence, terms like, well, compared to average use. We've never had anyone press us to put what our average use is in writing. I doubt it'll happen. And if it did, I would feel confident putting something together to back up my case. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep, definitely. And you can even, that makes the agreement for the trial look, like we're really watching this. Which we're totally not, but like, oh, we want, yes, tell me where you're going to be. I know, again. Yeah, right, but yeah, no, like we want to make this work for you. I want you to access it wherever, from whatever device you're going to be able to.
It's not necessarily site licensing, but it just keeps coming up in my head, back to the usage and being able to monitor. We, all of us, I'm sure, have seasonality. Buying. Ours is tax season. April is really tough. October is pretty tough too. So back to the sheriff, otherwise known as the machine. She's like, let's get that usage data and see who's logged in now, because then they're
Yeah.
not doing tax stuff and they can take a sales call. And
Yep.
it's like, that's bringing it a little bit too far.
But
So
God
that's where I
bless
draw
her,
the
you know?
line.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but and that's not with very sophisticated data or any, heavy hitting
Logged
back end
in now.
system. Yeah, but it's brilliant what you can do with that, that small amount of information. Jody, yeah.
Wouldn't encourage that one.
Yeah. Sure.
Do you all do auto renew?
Not for site licenses, remember?
We've done it on some of ours, and what we sort of found was the rep didn't want to call before that 90 days, like sort of don't give them a chance to cancel it.
Right.
They had to cancel before 90 days or else it auto renewed. And she didn't want to give them a chance to cancel it. She waited till after the 90 days and then was like,
What else do you need?
right,
Yeah.
let's do this, let's do that. And then if they said, oh, yeah, we just don't really have it in the budget, she'd be like, sorry, it renewed them, ask them to come in. So,
Right.
I think it sort of has its pros and cons. I mean, we've had people just auto renew, it's been good, but then it also teaches someone to wait to call, which I don't want them to.
Right.
I want them to touch them, all the time, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, we have.
We haven't, but we have worked a lot with the timing of the AEs renewal calls. When Lexi first came in, we were giving the AEs the renewal list. I think it was a month before their expiration date. And what we found is they were so focused on saving the sale that it wasn't nurturing the upsell and add-on opportunities. So now it's 3 months ahead. And that, again, speaks to going back to sort of the basic rules, is the ongoing engagement, the constant excuses to check in. So really, when the renewal, again, we're not using that. It's really about expanding it. When the time comes, it's much more of a natural conversation, I think. Yep.
One thing that I worked with somebody on with their license was free products. And that was a really cool way to touch base because it wasn't that creepy, hey, I see you haven't logged in today.
Right.
You haven't logged in this day.
Yeah.
We have three free products that are up to this $3,000 in value, and I see you haven't taken advantage of them yet. Do you need me to help you, show you where to download those? Yeah.
Excellent.
Really nice way of touching base. It was customer service oriented, but it was just another touch in there that helped them really engage with the product.
Yep.
Our AEs are also very good, again, when, no discounts. We don't like discounts, but we will.
In case she didn't mention that before.
One more time. but you can do add-on. You can add on a product or a special report. Your whole entire team gets, this printed out report of this PDF or access
Yep.
to. We also, with content license, getting access to stuff that is not that hard. It's already produced. So
Yeah.
it's much nicer to throw in a freebie.
It's been really cool too with Salesforce, with our Salesforce capabilities now, and talking about how the workflow has changed and how it just has opened up just enormous, incredible opportunities. We're seeing more of actually the site license sheriff that Lexi referred to earlier has been sending out our easing if there's something about a case involving a discount or whatever. She's actually forwarding this content on, and the article that it might be referring to. So it really puts that level of engagement also into your content flow, which, talking about sort of the marketing and editorial, the Marca Journal, Marketa Journal from yesterday. So journal, exactly, thank you. So it opens up the free, looking like you're really helping them out, which is incredibly valuable. Oh, we're done. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, I mean.
Ideas. Love ideas.
We had this on sort of prospecting for site licenses, and David, I referred to your building out the organization chart, which is such a great way of putting it. And then, again, seeing that there might be different levels of usage within one account, the people who might not use it as heavily as the practitioners who make up the bulk of that $50,000 account. But, simple things, just making sure that you have some way. I mean, we went through this whole thing of profiling our VIP accounts, where we literally went into Multipub, our fulfillment system, and pulled any name associated with Grant Thornton or PwC, and overlaid that with the active names, and at least, had a roster of, I mean, those are all prospects, and it was a gold mine right in our prospect file. So that's a really logical place to start. And again, any kind of news you can get where,
I say with the Google alerts, find your top 10 customers, the ones who spend the most money that your site licenses, and make a Google alert.
Yep.
Because people are always joining their firm, and every new person who comes in is always a new opportunity.
yeah, and what a cool, I mean, it just is so great for the AE.
Send them a handwritten note, congrats on your new
Yes.
job.
And then you wait 2 days, and yeah, it's true. And again, firms that are acquired, great sources of prospects. Yep.
Did you say that you send usage reports quarterly automatically?
No. We review
Internally.
the user. We internally.
But when the client asks for usage reports, do you have?
It's happened twice.
Yeah, rare. You do?
Yeah, I don't think we've educated our clients enough that they could
Yeah.
really ask for it that often, but
Thus, using the vague terminology, like, compared to average usage.
You don't send them anything
Nope.
when they ask?
yes, we do send them something when they
When they
ask,
ask,
of course.
What does that look like? How detailed is it?
How many
Basic.
they want to know, Susie Q attended 6 webinars. Why is Susie Q attending only 6 webinars when, Joey was attending 42? And it's more for their more internal controls. This is the way we always cage it, is it's more for your internal controls to make sure that your team is getting enough benefit out of the site license.
But, and on the usage, also with databases that you log into and search, if they were to ask for that, we do have that data. We can tie it to the account. So if we were pressed on it, again, think creatively about how you're going to package it, because you also want to be packaging it so it speaks to opportunity with the client as well, right?
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Some people are IP access, so it's like an Excel spreadsheet, really.
Yep.
It says like the date that someone logged in, what the IP was, what pages they went to on our site. Most of our site licenses are combinations of our newsletters. It'll say what newsletter they looked at and then what article. So they can just see, we like it when it's,
Exactly.
rows long.
Yeah.
That just means that they're very engaged using it.
Yep.
So, and we'll just send that, we'll clean it up a little bit.
When you get the request, what's usually the motivation?
If they do, or, should they renew?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's good enough that it makes them renew. We say, look what everybody's using.
Yeah. And that level of intelligence, too, what a conversation opener for. And so you're using this so heavily, naturally you need this. So, again, it's kind of speaking to the whole new level of conversation that you're having. Yes. Yep. It makes it a lot easier. So it works both externally and internally once you find your sort of data. Right.
But we do monitor it quarterly also.
It also depends on what's happening in your industry. I was in defense. As the defense started to squeeze locally large contracts, they were like, okay, we want to see what's going on now. Because they wanted to see if that many seats anymore.
Yep.
And after I left that job, I know it got worse, where whole divisions were being cut.
Wow. Yep.
They want to know.
Yep. They have to justify the investment,
But
right?
you know what? It's not necessarily the clients who's wanting to know, it's the accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. It's just, and that was a huge part of the budget
Mm-hmm.
in that sort of position. And now I'm walking 2 site licenses we just started last year. So,
Well, what potential?
well, I'm a consumer publication, but in Canada, which is looking at specific issue we send, it's part of their healthcare. It's a wellness initiative. So a lot of companies are looking for that. So it's like, oh, okay. So now, just got to figure out how to go from this to
You have dedicated sales resources?
yeah, thanks, Nat Parsons.
I heard he's a great guy. Yeah. Wow. Well, good luck with that. Sounds like, yeah.
It's everything's new.
Yep.
I started with this,
Mm-hmm.
for the issue, so they can put it behind their internal wall. So that does allow for a monthly touching the customer, saying hello, and our largest, we have two. One of them's relatively small, the other one's 15 grand for, pretty good for us. And she loves us because it allows her to use that budget for wellness.
That's great. Anything else? Fantastic. Thank you.